I never thought I'd be starting over at 4 or 5 not after raising a daughter, supporting a man's dreams for 2 decades, and building what I thought was a stable life. Not after all the late nights helping him sort invoices, plan his landscaping, business, and raise our little girl while he chased opportunity. I thought we were a team. I thought loyalty meant something. Turns out I was wrong. Very wrong. The day he came home and said, "It's all gone," I laughed. I actually laughed because I thought it was a joke. But when he wouldn't meet my eyes, and I saw the moving truck already pulling into the driveway, that's when it hit me. The house, my home, wasn't mine anymore. He'd mortgaged it behind my back, pulled cash out, and funneled it into a new opportunity with a woman I'd never met. A woman he was now leaving with. I didn't mean for it to happen this way, he said with that hollow voice cowards use when they've already made up their minds. He didn't mean for it. What exactly did he mean to do? Ruin our credit? Leave me and our daughter with nothing? Hand me a box of memories and walk out the door? I didn't scream. I didn't cry, not at first. I packed a few bags, grabbed my 12-year-old daughter's hand, and drove us to my mother's tiny house on the east side of town. The same house I'd sworn I'd never move back into. I had one suitcase, one terrified little girl, and 1,000 pounds of shame. I was humiliated, 45 years old, and sleeping in my childhood bedroom, surrounded by dusty trophies and floral wallpaper that hadn't changed since I was 14. My daughter, Mia, tried to be brave. She never complained. But I saw the questions in her eyes. "What now, Mom?" For the first few weeks, I didn't have an answer. I applied for jobs. Dozens of them. Office manager, customer support, retail, anything. But apparently, being out of the workforce for too long and lacking recent experience didn't look good on paper. Employers saw a middle-aged woman with a shaky resume and a messy story, and they passed. I sat in my mom's kitchen every night staring at my laptop. Resume tab open. Bank balance, $123.17. I remember. The night everything changed, Mia came home from school with a broken backpack. The strap had snapped. She looked at me hopeful and asked if we could get a new one. Nothing fancy, just something from Target. And I had to say no, not because I didn't want to, but because I genuinely couldn't. That night, I cried for the first time in the shower, with the water running so no one could hear. I cried because I was failing her, because my whole life had been about building security, and now I couldn't even buy my daughter a backpack. But in that moment of complete desperation, something cracked open inside me, not broken, awakened. I remembered something my grandmother used to say when I was little. You can lose everything except your hands and your mind. That's all you need to build again. And I had both dots, so I sat at that kitchen table the next morning, opened a new tab in my browser, and typed how to sell products online from home. I didn't know it yet, but that was the first step in building a $6 million business. Not overnight, not without failure. But from nothing, literally nothing, I was about to claw my way back. And this time, I wouldn't build it for someone else. When I first stepped back into my mother's modest home, the weight of everything I had lost pressed down on me like a heavy coat I couldn't take off. I remember standing in that cramped spare bedroom with peeling wallpaper, a single twin bed, and dusty boxes piled high from my childhood. My daughter, Ellie, only 12, sat silently on the edge of the bed, clutching her school backpack like it was a life vest. Neither of us cried. We had done all the crying in the car. There was something humiliating about being 45 and back in your mother's house like a teenager who had made bad decisions. But this wasn't teenage rebellion, this was betrayal. My husband of 18 years had not only left me, he had done it in the most cruel way possible. One day I came home to find the locks changed, my name removed from the bank accounts, and a "no, it's better this way." He had taken everything. Even the dog. Mom didn't say much. She didn't need to. She opened the door, gave me a long hug, and made a pot of tea. That first night, I stared at the ceiling, wondering if this was it. If this was where my life would end, not physically, but spiritually, but something in me, something quiet, tired and bruised, refused to give up. I wasn't ready to let my daughter grow up watching her mother disappear into despair. The turning point came from a shoebox about 2 weeks in. While cleaning out some old boxes in Mom's basement, I came across a shoebox full of hand-sewn baby headbands and booties. I used to make them for fun when Ellie was a baby. My hands remembered how to work the soft fabric, how to choose colors that made little girls look even sweeter. That night, I posted a few of them on Facebook Marketplace. I didn't expect anything, but by morning, I had 2 messages. "Are these still available? And do you take custom orders?" My heart raced. For the first time in months, I felt something other than sadness. I felt curious. Could I actually sell something? I stayed up that night sketching more designs. I pulled out my old sewing kit from storage. I borrowed my mom's ancient sewing machine, and with trembling hands and a heart desperate for purpose, I made 10 new items. I posted again. They sold within 2 days. That $70 felt like $7,000. Not. Because of the money, because of the possibility. No capital, no plan, just grit. I didn't have startup funds. My savings were gone, my credit was trashed, and I didn't even have a laptop. I borrowed Mom's old Dell computer that wheezed every time I opened a browser. I created an Etsy shop with a name I scribbled at 2 a.m., Sunflower and Spark. I started small, just baby accessories, soft bows, personalized onesies, diaper bags with hand-stitched names. I did everything myself, designing, sewing, photographing with my iPhone 6, packing, writing thank you notes. The orders trickled in, not hundreds, but enough to keep me busy. Enough to keep me distracted from court hearings, child support negotiations, and the never-ending exhaustion of rebuilding your life. Each positive review lit me up. Mom saying, "My daughter loved it," or "The packaging made me cry." It reminded me that I was good at something, that I could give something again. From handmade to high demand. Within 6 months, I couldn't keep up. My fingers ached from sewing. My living room looked like a fabric bomb exploded. Orders were coming faster than I could fill them. I was sleeping 4 hours a night and drinking coffee like water. But I wasn't complaining. I'd hit $8,000 in revenue in 5 months. Still, it wasn't sustainable. One day, Ellie came in and said, "Mom, your eye's twitching again." I looked at myself in the mirror, dark circles, pinched face, hair, and a mess. I knew I had to either scale or stall. That's when I made the scariest decision of all. I applied for an Amazon handmade seller account. Had heard horror stories. I had read the reviews, but I also knew Amazon's reach was massive. If I wanted to really grow, this was the path. It took 2 weeks to get approved. I remember refreshing my email every 30 minutes. When the confirmation finally came, I screamed. So loud, Mom thought someone had died. I sat down that night and listed my top 10 products. I priced them competitively, took better photos, and created a small logo on Kimba. By the end of the first week, I had 14 orders out of the basement. Within 3 months of selling on Amazon Handmade, I crossed $25,000 in sales. I used every dollar to reinvest. I upgraded my sewing machine. I paid for better product photography. I signed up for a course on product listings. I bought packaging in bulk. I also hired help, just one woman from my church who came by in the afternoons to help pack boxes. Then I hired another. Then another. We operated out of Mom's garage. Every inch of it became a mini warehouse. Bins of ribbons, fabric bolts, inventory shelves, and shipping tables. My mom would bring us lemonade and sandwiches like we were running a bakery. It felt alive again. I wasn't making millions yet, but I was building, I was moving forward. I was proving to myself, to Ellie, and maybe even to my ex, that you can't keep a woman down who's got purpose in her hands and fire in her chest. I remember the first time I got a message from someone who wasn't family asking about one of the items I'd listed. It was a silicone baking mat. Nothing fancy, just something I picked up wholesale from a supplier in California. I had bundled it with a set of measuring spoons and added a free printable recipe card I designed myself on Canva. The message said, "I love this idea. Do you sell anything for beginners who want to bake with their kids?" That one question changed everything, because for the first time, I wasn't just selling products, I was solving problems. I was helping a mom connect with her child. And suddenly, I realized this wasn't about kitchen tools. This was about moments, memories, confidence in the kitchen. So I pivoted. I started calling my little Amazon storefront Warm Nest Living, a brand for practical, beautiful tools that made home life feel just a little more joyful, a little more possible. I leaned into the experience of being a mom, of being tired and overwhelmed, but still wanting to make something warm for your kid. That was me. That was my buyer, and once I understood her, everything began to move faster. I spent my mornings packing orders, afternoons researching suppliers, and evenings watching YouTube videos on digital marketing and SEO for Amazon listings. My daughter, Ellie, helped me photograph items and test. Packaging. We turned Grandma's basement into a full-on fulfillment center. We labeled boxes while watching The Great British Bake Off and dreamed about one day having our own commercial kitchen. I worked like a woman-possessed. It wasn't just about money anymore. It was about proving that I could do this, that I could rebuild from the ashes, that my daughter would grow up knowing her mother didn't let heartbreak define her. Every order that came in was one more brick in the empire I was building with my bare hands, and slowly the numbers started to climb. $300 a week became $1,000, then $3,000. I reinvested every penny, upgraded product photography, hired a freelancer to help me with copy, even bought a butter printer for the shipping labels. By the end of year one, Warm Nest had generated $210,000 in revenue, but success wasn't a straight line. There was a week when a shipment of silicone spatulas arrived, melted because the freight container overheated. Another time, my Amazon account was temporarily frozen because of a false copyright claim. I cried into a bowl of oatmeal at 2 a.m., wondering if I'd made the biggest mistake of my life. But every time I hit a wall, I reminded myself, he left. He took everything, but I still have me. I wasn't just building a business. I was building back myself. Worth.Ellie was my cheerleader through it all. She'd leave me sticky notes on the computer like, "You're doing amazing, Mom," or "Don't forget lunch again." When she got accepted into the school's STEM club, she told the teacher, "My mom's a businesswoman. She sells stuff on Amazon and designs her own products." That was the moment I knew this wasn't just changing my life. It was changing hers too. By year 2, we hit $500,000 in sales. I brought on a virtual assistant and a part-time packer to help. During the holiday rush, we moved out of Grandma's basement and into a small rented office space 10 minutes away. I painted one wall pink and hung a sign that said, "Warm Nest HQ." We had our first viral hit, a baking set for toddlers with custom color options and a free ebook of recipes. Mommy bloggers picked it up. TikTok moms made unboxing videos. We sold out in 2 days. I cried on the floor of that pink-walled office, holding my daughter and laughing through my tears. It wasn't just the money. It was freedom. I set my own hours. I could go to Ellie's school plays. I didn't have to ask anyone's permission to take a break or try something new. I no longer had to live under the shadow of someone who'd made me feel small. And best of all, my brand wasn't built on hype or hustle, it was built on healing. Warm Nest became a space where women who had been knocked down could find tools to build something again. Whether that was baking a first birthday cake or teaching a teenager to cook dinner, my products became part of other people's lives. I started including handwritten notes in every order that said, "You're doing better than you think. Keep going," because that's what I had needed to hear. Once upon a time, by year 3, Warm Nest crossed $1.2 million in revenue. Amazon featured us in their Women-Owned Businesses highlight. I was invited to speak at a conference for mompreneurs in Dallas. I stood on a stage in front of 600 people and told them about the basement, about the betrayal, about the girl who used to think she was just a housewife. I said my ex thought he ended my story when he walked away, but I was just turning the page, and the room exploded in applause. The day we moved into our new home was cold, gray, and raining, and I don't think I've ever felt more alive. It wasn't a mansion. Just a 3-bedroom house on a quiet street with a fenced-in yard and a little porch swing. But it was ours. Mine and Ellie's, bought with money I earned myself. No cosigners, no begging. No one to pat me on the head and say, "Good for you, but let a real man handle this." I signed the closing papers with a red pen. Ellie danced through the empty rooms barefoot, already planning where we'd hang the fairy lights and what color to paint her walls. She said, "Mom, this house smells like starting over." And it did. We left a thank you note for my mother on her kitchen table. Without her, none of this would have been possible. And as I drove away from that basement that once felt like rock bottom, I whispered, "Thank you for being my safety net. But it's time for me to fly." Back at Warm Nest, the momentum was still picking up. With the extra space and stable cash flow, I expanded into new categories: meal prep containers, pantry organization kits, family planners. But I didn't just chase trends, I talked to my customers. I read every review, responded to every question. I wanted to know what made their lives easier. The deeper I went, the more I saw how many women were overwhelmed, burned out, trying to hold everything together with duct tape and grace. So I started building community, not just products. We launched the Warm Nest Weekly, a free email newsletter with tips, recipes, affirmations, and stories from other customers. We started a private Facebook group where moms could share real moments, not just the Instagram-worthy ones. And slowly, something magical happened. Women started sharing their stories: divorce, debt, depression. They talked about making dinner with toddlers on their hips and tears in their eyes, about rebuilding, about trying again, and they'd say, "Your tools helped. Your story gave me hope." I couldn't believe it, from being thrown out of my own house to helping tens of thousands of women reclaim power in their own kitchens, their own lives. By year 4, we hit $3.2 million in annual revenue. I hired full-time employees, women who were returning to the workforce after raising kids, or escaping bad relationships, or simply ready for a fresh start. I paid them well. I gave them flexible hours. I built the company I wished I could have worked for when I was struggling, and they loved it. They brought their hearts to work. They brought their stories. We laughed during team lunches and cried during goal meetings. Warm Nest became more than a brand. It became a movement. There was one moment I'll never forget. It was International Women's Day, and my team surprised me by putting together a slideshow of customers holding signs that said things like, "Warm Nest helped me believe I could do this." This little spatula helped me start over. I made my first cake after my divorce, and your kit gave me courage. I stood there bawling in the middle of the office while they handed me a framed picture that read, "You didn't just build a business, you built a bridge." Some days I still wake up in disbelief. The woman I was at 45 curled up on a mattress in my mother's basement, wondering how I'd feed my daughter, is still inside me. She's quieter now, but she reminds me where I came from. I've learned that healing isn't a straight path. Some days I still feel insecure. Sometimes I still ask, what if it all falls apart again? But now I have an answer. Then I'll rebuild again and again, because I know I can. At 48, I took my daughter on her dream trip to Tokyo. We walked through cherry blossom parks and ate ramen from tiny alley shops. One night, Ali looked at me across the table and said, "You know, Mom, if he hadn't left, maybe none of this would have happened." It hit me like a wave. She was right. His betrayal broke me open, but it also gave me the space to become someone I never imagined. A founder, a leader, a mother my daughter could admire, not for perfection, but for perseverance. And you know what? I don't hate him anymore. I don't need to. Because I won. Not in spite of what he did, but because I finally learned to stop waiting for someone else to save me. I became the hero of my own story. Worm Nest closed out its 5th year with $6.1 million in annual sales. We now ship to all 50 states, employ 23 women, and have been featured in Forbes, Today Parents, and Good Housekeeping. But my favorite milestone? A handwritten letter from a customer that read, "I bought your baking kit after my husband left." My daughter and I made cookies together that night. I think that's the moment I started healing. Thank you for helping me find the pieces of myself again. That letter is framed on my desk because that's why I keep going. If you had told me back when I was crying in the backseat of my car, staring at the foreclosure notice, that this is where I'd end up, I wouldn't have believed you. Back then, success meant just surviving the next day, feeding my daughter, keeping the lights on, not breaking down in front of Ellie, at least, not until she'd fallen asleep. But now, standing here 5 years later, in an office filled with women who call me boss, in a life I built with my own 2 hands, I can say this with certainty. Rock bottom was the foundation. When my husband left, he didn't just take the house. He took the version of me that believed I wasn't enough. The woman who needed permission, who waited for love to validate her worth. She's gone, and in her place stands someone stronger, quieter, wiser, not bitter, not vengeful. Just free. Free to dream. Free to fail. Free to rise. People always ask me now, what's the secret? How did you turn your life around? And I tell them this: start small. Stay real. Love who you're building this for. I didn't launch Worm Nest to become rich. I started because I wanted to feel useful again. Because I needed a way to hold on to hope when everything felt like it was slipping away. The truth is, this business was born out of desperation. But it grew out of love. Love for my daughter. Love for the women I served. Love for the person I was becoming slowly, painfully, beautifully. There are still days I doubt myself. Still moments I walk through Target, see some slick new product, and wonder, what if they're better than me? But then I remember, I didn't build this brand on perfection. I built it on real life, spilled juice, broken marriages, second chances, burned cookies and bedtime stories, and women learning to believe in themselves again. That's the heart of Worm Nest. That's the heart of me. To anyone watching this, right? Now who feels broken, abandoned, too old to start again, let me say this with everything I know. It is not too late. You're not too far gone. You're not your worst day. And your story isn't over unless you stop writing it. Don't wait for someone to come rescue you. Don't wait for permission to rebuild. The rescue is you. You are the hero you've been waiting for. I'm 50 now. My daughter is in college, studying to be a therapist. She says she wants to help women the way I helped her, and every time I see her walk into a room confident and kind, I think, we did it, baby. We made it out, not just out of the basement. Out of fear, out of shame, out of hiding, Dot, we made it into something bigger than we ever dreamed, Dot, and the best part, we're just getting started.